But I think the one thing that I think is important to take from what you just said as well, like the thing that came to me is when I did my first reach out back in 2014, I reached out to people I most admired, right? And I got a few yeses, but a lot of no's. And one of the first people that reached back was Seth Godin. He was super nice about it too. And he's like, like, congratulations, good luck with your new podcast. But like, reach back out to me when you get to 300. And I think he said that thinking I'd never get there. So I got to the 290s and I reached back out and I'm like, Seth, we're almost at 300, man. When are we going to record that episode? And he ended up doing it. And he was our episode, I'm sorry, 400th episode. So for a lot of people, I don't know if they're willing to put in the time and effort in the follow-up, because I found even with getting good guests, like Dave Asprey took me 5 years to get. And I think a lot of times people aren't willing to put that staying power in. Yeah. And when you're trying to build a great show, man, that is vital.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important. And it, you learn this as a business owner too, like when you do start doing sales and lead generation, and people are like, oh, get back to me in 6 months. And most people, if they don't have a system in place, they'll just be like, okay, and they forget about it. But I'm just like setting these 6-month reminders, these 1-year reminders. I go back to people sometimes, and I had a client that it took me 2.5 years of conversations with emails back and forth, and he'd had some life stuff going on, but eventually like he ended up signing up as a client. And if I hadn't been persistent or consistent with my engagement and respectful of his time and what he was asking for, a lot of times people were all busy. And so they're not trying to push you off. They're just like, I need some time. And I think it's this idea of being consistent and reaching out to the people that you want to connect with that inspire you, because they'll be impressed and say, oh, wow, Jeremy actually came back 5 years later. Like, he's still got a show. My best
clients that way. Like, I don't know about you, but my best clients have been the people that said 6 months from now, a year from now. Like I have a client now, he's on his 4th year and he pays us once a year every year. Yeah. And it was hey, wait 6 months. It's the best clients, sometimes take some forethought.
Yeah. So I really think it's important to really decide how serious you want to be about your show. If you want to have a podcast, and if you really think you or have a message that needs to be heard and that you have a unique viewpoint. And even if you, in the beginning, like when I started my show, there was a ton of podcasts about podcasting. I could have easily been discouraged. And I'm like, oh, everyone's doing this. But I'm just like, I'm going to add my own flavor. And I always tell people there could be 10 shows.
Not many anymore, by the way.
No, not many.
So you got some staying power, man.
So it's been interesting to see, and I tell people all the time, you could have 10 shows with the same exact topic, but you've got 10 different hosts who've had 10 different lives and 10 different, just journeys. And they're going to bring that, if they're being sincere, they're going to bring that eventually onto their show. And eventually, over time, you'll have 10 completely different shows if people are being authentic.
I think the only one I can think of, Adam Schäuble had a show called Casting the Pod. And I think he's even changed the name now. So it's like that's true to even just have some staying power. Yeah. You'd be surprised what even that'll do for you, just to be around longer than others.
I'm actually going to Podcast Movement at the end of this month, and they've given me a slot to have my 10 lessons from 10 years of podcasting. So they gave me a little session. So it was just a nice full circle coming back to the place. 10 years ago is when Podcast Movement launched itself. So I was there when it was just a Kickstarter. They were trying to get a couple people into a hotel in Dallas. They were trying to raise $10,000. And then all these podcasters were like, wait, there's a conference just for podcasters. They quickly got that money, and they was like, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.